Hello,
Hey,
how are you?
good. Tired after a straight 4 hour shift. Very tiring.
I'm still working.
For now it's Amazon. It's temporary, obviously.
Okay.
But but yeah, that's it's better than nothing.
Yeah, how did you get that? Was it quite
Uh,
or what
I
happened with your previous job?
well, it was what's the word for it? It was retention specialist. That was the title of the job, and
Um,
basically
what's that?
retention special. It's just a fancy word for call centers. Like
Oh,
if they called in and they said, "Oh, I want to cancel," and here's and why, and
okay,
it's like, okay, what can I do about that?
okay, cool.
Yeah, but in December, so after like a month or so of working there, I didn't agree with the company policies and how they handled some situations, so I decided to call quits. Uh,
But now you've got a new job.
yeah,
Doing well? Doing well, as you said, at least you've got one at this point of time.
yeah. No, it's good. It's good. I've been there since December, so it's part-time only, and I wanted to volunteer on the side. I did get that rolling to an extent, but then COVID happened, so it's kind of delayed a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah. So like what else are you doing right now? Like, can you still go to uni? Are you in uni at the
Will
moment?
be in September. If there's a delayed start, then in January, but nonetheless, I'm starting next year.
Ah, okay, so is that like a plan that's been set over your way that like potentially universities might not open until January?
Yeah, no, it's that thing is what we heard from the UK, like the phased start that in
Yeah.
certain departments started at a later time.
Mm-hmm.
But set in stone is definitely that I'm starting next September. And then if they say phase start, then January, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But everything else is set in stone. Transfer is done. They're just looking at the transfer credits, the transcripts, everything. But so far, I'm invited. I'm accepted. So it's just a little waiting.
Where are you
Yeah,
going?
Toronto, University of Toronto,
Yeah, so Ben is in Canada right now. We're the Canadian, kind of.
kind
You're
of
Canadian. You're not.
permanent resident. So technically,
Yeah, there we go.
yeah,
So what's it like out there, like at the moment? Like how strict, what's changed in your daily life?
it's. I wouldn't say okay. It's kind of strict because it's still lockdown. But when it comes to like moving around and doing your stuff, there's definitely more leeway than I think most countries will have it because the lockdown kicked in a lot earlier. They're already beginning the opening up. They are already planning to open up the economy next week or so.
Next week. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, just like the very basic stuff. I think it's like garden centers, some very basic stuff that
Mm-hmm.
don't have a lot of attention in the first place, so a lot of people won't flock to it.
Yeah.
So it's those stuff first, and then gradually it's gonna be more and more.
What's open at the moment? Like what kind of
Right
shop?
now,
Yeah.
it's retail.
Mm-hmm.
Some retail is open. If they can't do online, then of course they have to resort to it. Restaurants are technically open, but you can only order takeout. uh,
Right.
Essential businesses,
Yeah.
so like logistics, deliveries, of
Mm.
obviously the medical sector is still sector industry, but it's still open. Construction was paused. I think essential construction is ongoing, so
Okay.
hospitals, transport, stuff like that. But besides that, I don't know if anything else is really open.
Okay, so your like lockdown plan is basically the same to ours at the moment, pretty
Yeah,
much.
we just started it 2 months early.
Yeah. Um, how many announcements do you get a day? Like how do you get them daily, weekly? How updated are you?
It's every day at 11 Eastern time
Oh,
morning.
and what kind
So
of things do they
it's
talk to you about on there? Like, do you have like because over here when Boris gave his speech, they were pre-chosen questions answered with
mhm,
basically pre-answered.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's so 11 is when the provinces start their conferences usually, and then Trudeau has his own personal like separate conference at 1 p.m. Eastern. And okay, so it's set up the same way, usually like 20 minutes of just raw facts and data and what's been happening, and then they open up the floor to virtual and physical calls. Usually, there are some interviews that are in the room, but it's very limited. And that's the same for Trudeau as well. He also has a 20 to sometimes 30-minute address of what's been happening, how's this nation doing. Usually it's a motivational speech. So like, one of them last month, I remember, was addressed directly to the children. So he talked to them directly. He literally said to the parents, like, "Okay, so parents, if I can get the children's attention now," and then that tells them like, "Okay, you're very brave. Thank you for being like the way you are right now, not getting on your parents' nerves." Basically, he talked like a parent.
That's amazing. Like we don't get that.
I wasn't following the UK
had
ones.
About 2 minutes of Boris Johnson shouting just names of jobs new, like care worker and hospital workers and nurses and doctors. That's our motivation. But
Each their own.
like how do I say this? So like hospitals and death rises, like how compared to the UK, how much higher or lower or
if I'm correct, we're seeing it's still below 10,000. If I'm correct, it's between 5 and 10,000 right now. So it's nowhere near as drastic. I think we're hitting the peak right now.
What about care homes? Is anything like touched upon about in there at all? Because it's quite a big pressing issue at the moment, is the fact that the care home deaths aren't being correctly like noted down and put into the analysis.
To be fair, I haven't seen a lot of coverage regarding that. I don't know if it's because they're just covering it up at the CBC or it's not as bad as in the UK, but care homes have been relatively, how do I say this, on the low, basically, like not really, not in the main eye of the media.
What at the moment is, from a Canadian person, not you yourself particularly, but just the general consensus of the UK right now?
Like, what do we think?
Yeah. Like, if there was going to be an opinion poll, what do you think, like, the main opinion would be about the UK?
To be fair, right now, I think I mentioned this to you before, but right now we are very worried about the US. So the UK doesn't get as much attention, but the UK, from what we've seen and what I've heard from some people that I've talked to, we try to avoid the drama because it's sometimes really sad just to listen to it all day long. But the consensus / the average of what I've heard / experienced would be that the UK is definitely on the worst end of things right now. Not as bad as, of course, Italy or the US, but definitely on that end of the scale.
Yeah, what do you think? Like, what are the bases for that reasoning? Like, 3 main reasons why, roughly.
I think it would be to do with the preparations.
Yeah.
Canada got started very early. I'm not sure when we entered this whole distancing and all that, but it was late winter, early spring, sometime around then, that we just said, you know what, we need to be careful because there has been 100 so deaths. We need to be careful because we don't know how bad it's gonna get.
Because that's like completely different to the UK. I explained in another episode that like I was in Poland like just March, like, and there was nothing at Gatwick. Like, we weren't worried about it, but we kind of saw something was going on because like when we were there, like got like TVs in their train stations, and they like show like little small clips of like what's coming for like that day on their like news channel. Like, that's kind of what I think it was anyway. And it was just like riots going on, and like it was like showing that coronavirus was like actually a lot more serious because of like the economic issues it's having. It is really serious. And we were like, I don't think, like, no, it can't be true. Like, we're in the UK, like they said it's fine, but then 2 weeks after, a week and a half after, we were in lockdown, like completely different to what you're telling me. the general consensus was in Canada was that as soon as you guys heard about it, that you guys were very on it.
Yeah, we waited a couple of hundred. I wouldn't say waited. Sorry, we didn't wait a couple of hundred. We didn't wait. That's the wrong choice of words. But after we had so many cases, I think it was between 500 and zero, obviously. That's when it kicked in immediately. Because at first we thought also like, oh yeah, it could be just the flu, but then the numbers kept going up.
Yeah.
So it was a quick reaction.
Mm-hmm. So what's the portrayal of the US?
The US, they also have a similar schedule when it comes to the news conferences. It kind of overlaps, but I did see one of the news conferences, and the coverage so far has been that the US is greatly unprepared, definitely not doing enough. The economic issues are being portrayed as more severe than the fact that there's people are dying.
Yeah.
So there's more of a focus on the monetary/fiscal problems. It's weird.
How the hospitals and the healthcare systems working out over in the US? Do you know?
How well?
Struggling, like.
From what we've heard reported is that New York is definitely on the lower end of scales, barely coping.
Yeah.
Not sure about the western states, but the east, when it comes to the east side, New York is struggling. I know that for sure. Not sure about any other major cities, but
yeah,
it's been a while.
What about your healthcare system? Is it how's it doing? Like, how are your hospitals doing? Are they coping well, or is it just like the NHS at the moment where people are trying to raise money, do charitable works? We've had a man that's been walking. I don't know if you've heard.
Oh yes, I heard about it. It's Lieutenant now.
The man walking as well. We've had so many different charitable works, people doing 5K runs, everything like that. I don't know if anything like that's been reciprocated over in Canada, at all.
We heard about it. Yes. Is it Tom Moore?
Yeah. I did star, and it's Captain.
It's Captain.
Captain. Definitely. I got it right.
Yes, we did hear about that. I didn't receive any. We didn't. I wouldn't say we didn't, but we don't see a lot of major fundraising going on for the healthcare, because from what's being reported and being told by both the Ontario Premier and Trudeau is that the healthcare is doing as intended, just well. It's not too much. We can handle a bit more, but we're not putting it on the lighter end of scale. Like, oh yeah, we can handle more, so just open up.
Do you think that your health system in Canada is a lot better funded than ours in the UK now? Because you've experienced both of them. You've been sorry, this is how I know Ben. I went to uni with him, and then he left me to go to Canada. Yeah, in our final year, he couldn't do just one more year. He had to leave. Actually,
come on.
Smart. He knew, he had this gut feeling that him and his parents didn't like the UK anymore and knew something was going on. But yeah, what do you think, healthcare wise? Do you think that ours is better or yours at the moment? Because at the moment you've seen both, so you know how ours is doing.
Yeah, well, because I've had some incidents, so to speak, in both systems. I've had my wrist sprained in the UK twice.
Yeah, we've all been.
Yep, and then I also had, I just had, not just, but in the fall/autumn, I had my wisdom teeth removed. So I also had some experience in the dental. In the dental department, I suppose.
No, but that's quite rare, because you haven't even been there a year yet. As we were saying, just now. So you've had a substantial amount of experience to comment. So
yeah. It's okay. So I'll tell you from my experience.
Yeah.
The insurance covered the I wouldn't say, what's a good way to say it? The noticing, they noticed that there's wisdom teeth. They did some tests. The checkup.
General checkup, yeah.
Yeah, that sort of stuff. The insurance covered, what was it, 90% of it?
That's not bad.
The X-ray was, I wouldn't say more than $200. I think it was way below that. I forgot how much it was. It was dirt cheap.
Yeah,
and
that's pretty good.
And then the surgery, of course, I had to pay for myself because I was still a newcomer, so I wasn't completely covered. That made sense. It wasn't, what was it, $800?
Yeah.
And
Compared to like if you were across the border when that happened, unfortunately, like your costs would be absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah. To put it to an even bigger comparison, just before we left, I also had a checkup, and they didn't notice anything. And the teeth were less than a year from properly starting to growing out. And in the UK, they didn't notice it at all.
Oh my God, fair. Okay, so I've had a couple of questions. Yeah, one of them was like, how do you feel about the US healthcare system during COVID? That was from someone called Joe. How many of you are in Canada? I don't know. How many family members have you? Like, are you able to see anyone like family-wise, like at the moment? Because is it just you and your mum and your dad?
No, it's the immediate family. So siblings and parents, plus the cat now.
All in one house.
Apartment, but yes.
Okay, so you don't really know, like, you don't know, like, what about friends? Like, have you been able to see them, like, kind of thing? Like, what are your distancing rules with that? Anyone? Well, we can go. This is the problem. You can go out, but you can't go out. But you can do unlimited exercise, but you still can't really meet anyone.
Yeah. I see. I know what you mean.
What's it like for you? Have you seen any friends? Anyone?
I have made one very good friend. He's Irish with in the previous workplace, and we were intending to go out like 2 months ago now. But as soon as the news started coming in that, something's happening, please don't go out unless absolutely necessary, but it hasn't been proper lockdown yet. And then we said like, okay, so maybe we should just wait a bit before something happens. A couple of days later, they did announce the lockdown completely. So we maybe dodged a case here and there in the family, I suppose. As for seeing friends, I'm at the workplace. I see colleagues all the time. So we do, but it's 2 meters, obviously.
Yeah. But what's that like going into work? Like the first thing that you do, what do you do?
Oh, yeah. So the new standard, the new norm is that once you do enter the facility, so the immediate outside area is not affected by the new rules, but as soon as you enter, it's 2 meters distance. You always have to have the mask on that they give you, and you'll
mask on.
Yeah, Amazon gets the cheap ones, but yeah, they still give you masks.
Yeah. Okay.
And they also, so you go into the room 2 meters distance, sanitize your hands immediately, and then pick up the mask by the things that go over the ear. I'm not sure what to call it.
Yeah.
The straps, whatever. You after sanitizing, you hold it, you put it on, you go to almost like a clerk desk where they have like a little hole where they can put the temperature check on. And they also have a body temperature check with a thermal cam. And then you go to the actual person who measures the temperature of your forehead square in the middle.
Because I don't know if you've heard, but today some people had to go back to work today. And I don't know anyone. If anyone I would love if you have gone back to work today to talk to me and come on. I would like to know what your experiences was like going back to work. But yeah, like I don't think any of that is going to be at all, like probably a bottle of hand sanitizers and that's about it. Like what you said, you mentioned face masks. So like, is everyone in Canada, like when you go out wearing a face mask now, like standard?
It's not necessarily face masks, but okay, most people wear them, but there are some exceptions. But if they don't have a face mask, they usually have like a bandana of sorts, so some way to cover their face.
Everyone is you would say like 95% of people are covering their face, because over here, I would say that's about 20 to 35. I would say, like I walked into town, as I said, like the other day to buy some shoes, and the amount of people compared, I would literally say it was probably 5% to 95, just from one day walking in and out for about an hour.
Yeah, it's definitely different.
But the thing is because nobody knows whether we should be wearing them or not, because we're not getting any clear instruction right now from anyone or anyone else. So like,
That's fair.
So what I'm seeing is a lot of people where they're like putting their face masks but down here and up here. And just so you guys know, that if you are using a face mask and you do that, you might as well please just put it in the bin, because you are infecting all of this area that you are touching whilst you're going up and down. Do not take those masks away from someone that is going to use it properly. If you're going to buy them, I think it's probably right to say you need to research how to use them properly. So when you bring them down to have a cigarette or having a vape or a bite to eat, you know, you need to take the mask off and bin it and put a new one on. That's really important to know, because that's what I'm seeing a lot at the moment is people are having cigarettes and they're putting them down, walking around the street. And what they're not realizing is that's just completely defeating the object. And people don't know whether they can buy face masks as well at the moment, because they're apparently taking them away from the NHS.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother issue. But moving on, what's your opinion? What is your personal opinion of the UK right now?
I would say it's one word would summarize it, I think, and which is just disappointed.
Okay. Why do you think that?
I've moved there in 2012 summer, yeah, and I've seen the highs, you know, the summer, the Olympics, the relatively okay Tories, the welcoming, and then over the years it just degraded severely. Now it's welcoming, the Tories became worse. Just the consensus and the feeling, it just went downhill in the last 2 years, I would say, but. Seeing how they're responding to this whole situation, it's definitely disappointing.
I think that's heartbreaking to hear. Absolutely heartbreaking. I'm not going to lie. Like, that feels like it is becoming a general consensus against people, right? Like, right now with people. Like, and I don't think that we're going to have the attraction and the appeal that we had because of this issue. Really. And as you said, like, it's growing, and that's heartbreaking to hear that, like, you don't feel almost welcome anymore in my country, because that's what I think what the UK is so special for. I think, like, we have such a diverse range of people, have all nationalities, all sexualities, all everything, like, literally any type of person from any type of the world, you will find them in England somewhere or the UK. And I think that's absolutely heartbreaking to hear that we will lose that, essentially. What's your advice for us?
There's okay, let's start with the basics, I guess. Masks.
Yeah.
Sanitizing, distancing.
Masks, sanitizing, distancing. Cool. What do you think a post-COVID world is going to look like in Canada? Or really?
It's going to be... maybe there will be a bit more introverts, I suppose. People might not be as enthusiastic to go out.
And he said that, like, I think it will take me some time to readjust on the other side of this, because you know, some people can just become like a bit comfortable. One of those persons, like I'm one of those people. I've become pretty comfortable. Like, this is the first time I've spoken to anyone like cool or even in person in weeks, like, because I've been revising and stuff, but I just genuinely have just shut off the world. But it's going to be so weird on the other side of even just seeing everyone out and seeing what's going to be different. So what do you think that difference is going to be like?
Public events would be definitely smaller. Definitely it will be smaller. There will be a bit more rules as to how you behave, and like there's going to be some distancing rules. I'm pretty sure. Face masks might be mandatory for them. That's just a guess, but I think it's gonna be similar to what.
They're already all doing it, so they're fine.
I think they just get used to it, so they're not gonna notice it if they just say face mask. So
exactly, like we're adaptable humans. As humans, we adapt quite easily.
Yeah, it's gonna be
like, when you go through the airport, that was a pretty big change that we all just quickly was like, okay, now we've got lots more securitization, like when we're going through airports and stuff. You mentioned venues. That's really quick one. What is like happening? Is like any support for your like venues going on right now? Because I was speaking with my friend Goldsby yesterday about it, and yeah, I just wanted to know like what is going on with your venues, because at the moment we're clutching onto them at straws at this point. Like we really need help.
Well, venues, like what kind of venues? Like sports?
Like concerts, pubs, all those little tiny like cafes and places where you'd hear like small music or big music, or you'd see like performers and
okay,
all that kind of stuff.
Well, I know for a fact that Ryan Reynolds has been attempting to use sub-charity to fund the bartenders by giving, I think, was it 20 or 30% of the profits as a tip, basically.
That's amazing. That's really good.
It's just one person that I know for a fact. Besides that, pubs, I don't know what they're doing, honestly, because they're purely recreational in the eyes of the government. So I'm not sure what kind of funding they're getting.
Yeah, like it's dependent here a lot on insurance. Like as I said before, I don't understand it. Would love someone to come and teach me about it, but I don't understand what the hell's going on with insurance and stuff, so I can't comment on it. But yeah, I know it's to do with that, and we don't know what businesses are getting it. Like some of them aren't because of that, because they aren't established or don't. It's something to do with like it's 70 grand payment fee, like what you normally
yeah.
And then you can get it or apply to get it, a small loan or grant or something.
Honestly, I don't know. Concerts and all that stuff has been cancelled indefinitely. Most have been pushed a year, but you never know.
Yeah. So they've like majority of them, they've just pushed them back rather than like actually cancelling them, would you say?
I would say most of them are delayed instead of cancelled.
That's really good though. Like really good, because it means that like artists still have an income, hopefully.
Yeah, except for the things that occur annually. I think for the things that occur every year, for 1 year it's cancelled, but something that happens once in, I don't know, 2 years or 4 years, whatever, it gets pushed.
Is anything you think that the UK should know right now that we don't, or just in general, like about Canada?
Should know?
Or like anything that we're like not particularly picking up on over here, or we don't know enough about, or not getting enough information here about?
I think you guys do have the information. I'm just not sure why you guys are not acting on it.
That's
in all honesty.
Yeah. So you think that we do have the information here, but we're just not doing anything about it?
Nothing new has been revealed ever since. I mean, they're working on some virus, like vaccines, I guess. There is one research that I forgot what the vaccine was called, but basically, for one of the vaccines that I got at birth, I forgot what it was. There has been reported correlates between people who have the vaccine and whether they have corona or not. And that's old news. It's been 2 months or 1 month since that's been released. It's just basic data that's out there. And regarding the virus and how it should be handled in the public, nothing new, really.
No. Okay. One last thing before I let you go. It's been an absolute pleasure. What is a future topic that you would like us to explore?
A future topic?
Yeah. It can be anything. It can be small. It can be little.
I would say definitely. I think I mentioned this to you on Insta, but it's the consequences. The consequences for China's exports, the way they handle the exotic market, especially the food market.
And explaining what that is, and like the Spratly Islands and stuff like that.
The possible cause of this virus is because of the exotic food market. How China is not being really dealt with. I know that every country has their hands full with this, but some international backlash should be in order.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that, if I'm like completely honest.
That's fine. That's just my opinion.
For it. Like, I think that personally China's used as a scapegoat too much. But like, that's just my opinion right now. And if anyone wants to come on, talk with probably me and you again, if you're more than welcome to come back on.
Of course.
Amazing. So I'll have that for next time. But yeah, if anyone else wants to come and explore that as well, that would be amazing. We can have a bit of debate going. Ooh. And that's half an hour.
All right.
Thank you very much. It's been lovely speaking with you. All right. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.